Hello and welcome into another video. Is what this video should have started with and usually does, but I've had to do a weird cut to start the video because for whatever reason the microphone just didn't pick up literally just the first 5 to 6 seconds of the video. That's all it was. This is already longer and I know this is going to pad out what turned out to be a very long-winded video anyway, and even worse, I kinda think I got sidetracked and never fully finished one thought, but it's what the title of the video actually is, so it doesn't really matter because I'd like to think from context you can gather. My complaint here is that we've went from dev cycles where you'd get a new game every couple of years to now you get a new game, if you're lucky, once per generation, and I really do feel we need to, you know, go somewhere in between that, find a sweet spot essentially. That's what the video's about. So yeah, fuck knows how I'm going to cut this footage into this now, because now I need to figure out when I stop talking, where I stop talking enough to be able to cut into the intro. Okay.
Probably tell from the fact that I'm playing MotorStorm, I'm still currently going through a kind of like Sony nostalgia era, I guess. So today's episode is, I wanted to actually touch upon long dev cycles, and basically this came to me while I'm sitting here playing MotorStorm, because I was sitting realising I'm currently going through this, as I say, this like Sony nostalgia era of, I really want to play PlayStation. There's a lot of PlayStation games that I really want to fucking play. And Sony just don't make them anymore. Like, seriously, Sony don't make pretty much anything I actually give a fuck about anymore. I like what Insomniac does. I liked Ghost of Tsushima, but not enough to actually get Yotai on the PS5. I was thinking, oh yeah, I'll get it when it comes to a PC, and then that might not be happening. I'm already struggling with what actually they make. Oh, Returnal and Saros, because Saros is coming out. God of War, I think they sometimes make God of War these days, but honestly I don't actually like the new franchise at all. I really don't like the combat of just throwing your axe at everything, or it was an axe, wasn't it? Was it a hammer? Seriously, this is how detached I am from Sony these days and how little I actually give a fuck, because everything that they made that I like, they just don't make anymore. I used to absolutely love MotorStorm, but I'm sitting here playing it and I'm like, you know what, this is still an amazing game. And I don't understand why they stopped making them. But then it actually started to dawn on me that they were figuring out a lot of stuff that gamers have took a while to figure out. How to actually meet your needs, how to be satiated without being oversaturated. And I think that was the problem with MotorStorm. MotorStorm came out, and I haven't actually gone back to check the dates, because at the end of the day, it'll be off by a couple of months anyway with these estimates. But I remember MotorStorm launching with the PlayStation. And I know fine well the PS3 actually came out later in Europe than everywhere else, so maybe that's why, but I remember it launching and getting it and absolutely loving it, and within a couple of years we had a sequel, Pacific Rift, and within a couple more years we had a PSP game, and within a couple more years we had the third game, Apocalypse. And I can't remember the name of the PSP game. I want to say maybe it was Arctic Edge, and I played the ever-living shit out of MotorStorm and Pacific Rift and Arctic Edge. Didn't really touch Apocalypse, because by the time Apocalypse came out I was like, I really like these games, but I'm kind of getting a little bored, because like not a lot's happening between them, and the spiel with Apocalypse was just that they were adding in apocalyptic weather environments and stuff like that, and it's like, not enough has really changed here. You're releasing these games a little too fast, and I know fine well there's going to be one coming out on the PlayStation 4, because I mean the PS4 is coming out soon, you know, and I'd got to a point where I was like, I'm kind of done with MotorStorm until something major happens with it. And it turns out Sony were done with MotorStorm, and I do wonder how many people opted out of buying Apocalypse because of, you know, oversaturation, and we're in the same boat as myself, and now we're at the point of, you know what, it's been so long, I'd really like another MotorStorm, but I'm pretty sure if they've not shut down the actual developer, they've killed the license off or something. I think this is another one of those that's so dormant that I'm pretty sure it's dead. I know with Wipeout they actually shut down the studio. I know with a lot of things that I love they actually shut down the studio. And there's things like Killzone where it's now the people that make Horizon, and the people that make Horizon are only allowed to make Horizon apparently because everything has to be Horizon. Seriously, considering this is a franchise that is, I mean, honestly kind of mid to me. I thought the first game was kind of like a 6 out of 10. And the second game, I didn't even get around to finishing it because it had so much visual noise that my visually impaired ass, I was struggling to actually navigate the overworld. So I'm not all in on Horizon, to say the least, and that's all Guerrilla Games seem to be allowed to make these days. And it's the same story with all of their studios. They've either shut them down, like Bluepoint recently, or they've killed off the franchise, and it's like, oh yeah, remember when we used to make this? Like, hey, now we make Astrobot, and Astrobot can, like, remind you of all the stuff that we used to make, although we don't make it anymore. And don't ask for a new one, because no. And don't ask for any remasters, because, like, the remasters that people want, you know, the Bloodborns and that, no, we're not going to do any of that. Would you like The Last of Us again? So anyway, going back to my actual point, I was sitting here playing, really loving, and like, I really would love a new MotorStorm. And all throughout the PS4 gen, I didn't really feel that way, because again, we were already at the point of oversaturation, and I'm like, if I wanted to go back and play one, I could probably just play Apocalypse finally, and maybe I'd enjoy it. But again, I wonder if a lot of people out there were in the same boat as myself of being so sick of something that we absolutely loved, that by not buying it, that's what made the decision. And it's annoying that all of this stuff tends to be tested and we never find out, and we don't know what's happening behind dev stores. We don't know any of this stuff, but we do know that people want money and people want sales numbers and all of this other shit. And it feels like maybe with certain franchises they didn't realize that they were oversaturating until suddenly people stopped buying them, and then they were like, oh well, people clearly hate the franchise. It's like, no, it's just that we've got too much, and now we're in a drought. Now we've got way too little. I honestly, I could be wrong with this, but I feel 4 to 5 years is kind of the sweet spot for me personally with games and sequels coming out. I would quite happily get a Zelda every 4 to 5 years. I would quite happily get a MotorStorm every 4 to 5 years. I would quite happily get a lot of things every 4 to 5 years, because that feels like the right sweet spot for me personally. And one of the things that I kind of want to sidebar into here, I'm really glad, as much as I do not actually like Forza Horizon at all, I just don't like open world races, and that's the worst part. If they actually brought MotorStorm back, because of Forza Horizon being so popular, they'd probably turn around and insist that the new MotorStorm will be open world, so I'd end up hating it. But I'm really glad that Playground Games are getting given the ability to make Fable. I also don't like Fable. Now, part of that is the whole Peter Molyneux lying out of his arse and being one of the world's most notorious liars in video games. I played that game as a kid, and I'm like, none of the stuff that you said was here, what the fuck? I remember trying to go the pure evil route. I'd just finished Knights of the Republic recently before, and I remember trying to go for the full-on evil route in that game, and I was getting wrong as a child in the game. I was getting, like, reprimanded, that's the word. I was getting reprimanded by, like, a school teacher, and I could not figure out what I was doing wrong. I'm like, why the hell am I not allowed to be evil in this? Like, I was told that I could be evil from the get-go, and then, obviously, I found out about the guy being infamous for lying and all of that shit. But, tangent aside, as much as I don't like Forza, as much as I don't really like Fable, but I'm still probably going to try the new one because it's a different dev, I'm really glad that Playground Games are no longer going to be Xbox's racing games dev. I think, and I could be completely wrong here, and I know making games is very difficult, and unfortunately you tend to get shoeboxed in with what you're good at, but I'm starting to think that Nintendo might want to experiment with this, because they're the only people who've kind of got a healthy relationship with their IPs and releasing games, but even then, they've got some franchises that are completely dead. They've got, obviously, F-Zero, they've got Kid Icarus, they've got a load of stuff that a lot of people would love back. Even just a port of Kid Icarus Uprising, I would kill for a Switch 2 version with HD and a proper control scheme and better internet, because I was actually really good at the online of that game. I absolutely dominated. That's one of those few games that I was actually good at, but I think in part that's mainly because, let's be real, Nintendo is not known for good internet, so the competitive gamers didn't really go there, and because I was used to slogging it out on Halo 2 lobbies, no wonder I was good at a Nintendo online thing. These days I'd probably get absolutely destroyed. But I would absolutely love it if Nintendo would have, like, the Kirby people also happen to make Kid Icarus, and the people making Mario, now they make Donkey Kong. So if every now and then we'd get every 4 to 5 years we'd get a Donkey Kong or a Mario or a Donkey Kong or a Mario from them, you know, even doing something like that to leapfrog and bring your franchises back, there's a lot of stuff that I feel we could do to actually kind of hit this sweet spot. And that, with Nintendo, I'm definitely being greedy, because again, they're one of the only people actually continuing to make their franchises and make good versions of them as well. I truly do feel in the last 10 years we've got one of the greatest Mario games ever, probably the greatest Kirby ever. I definitely think my favourite fucking Zelda has been made in the last 10 years. We're getting not just boring little sequels or anything, we're getting actual franchise-defining games still from them, whereas Sony, we just don't really get anything. And Microsoft, we get stuff, but we get it way too much. Again, I'm not a Forza fan, but the fact that so many previews for Forza 6 are people saying, this just feels more like Forza 5 but in Japan. They've kind of hit the point where we've had enough Forza, I think. And instead of them getting to a point where by Forza Horizon 7 coming out in 2 years' time, people will just stop buying it, which will be yet another thing for Microsoft, and then they'll have to stop doing it. I'm kind of hoping that this allows Playground Games to go, you know what? People were saying that Forza 6 was maybe out a little too soon. They're a little oversatiated with this franchise. That's kind of good, because instead, we've just made Fable. Now that we know that people like Fable, let's say that it does really well. Now that we know that people like Fable, let's go hard into building that sequel and bring it up a little bit. So instead, maybe they'll get Fable 2 of the reboot in 5 years' time, and maybe then we can start working on a Forza, because by that point it'll be in 5 years since we released Forza 6, and maybe we'll be able to, you know, I worry that we're already getting to this part, especially with races. This is why this has done this, but we've seen it happen with so many other franchises as well. The PS3 era was absolutely masterful for Sony, and I don't understand why so many people hated that era when they were in it. And I always knew that people would look back and eventually realise, and I think that is finally starting to happen, because I love the PS3, I love the PS4, I cannot stand my PS5. On top of the fact that I hate the controller and hate everything about it and just don't like using it, I don't like the interface, and I don't like the fact that none of the stuff that I actually care about comes out as games anymore. So there's never anything to keep me in Sony's ecosystem here. But with the PS3, I got Uncharted, and it was amazing. And I got Uncharted 2, and it was even better. And then I got Uncharted 3, and it was decent. I don't understand why Uncharted 3 was the one that was getting 10s when it came out. It feels like people should have give 10s to 2 and then they wanted to course correct. Uncharted 3 is a fine game. I do think it's the worst out of the original 3. But we got 3 games on the PlayStation. And I've already said, we got MotorStorm and Pacific Rift and Apocalypse all on the PlayStation. And it's not just those. We got so many entries in so many different franchises. We got, on a technicality, we got 2 Wipeouts, but one was kind of just like a really big expansion, because we got Wipeout and then HD Fury. But we got so many fucking great Sony games on the PS3. So many absolutely fantastic things. We got multiple Infamous games. We got an Infamous little download thing as well. Just so many things. And we got Infamous, I want to say Last Son, might have been what it was called. The one in Seattle on the PS4, I actually really didn't enjoy. I was not enjoying the protagonist, and it put me off playing the game. And I figured that, again, we were going through we'll just continue to get all of these things over and over and over fucking again, so I'm already getting sick of them. And then, no, actually, we didn't get an Infamous again. Obviously, at least I know that dev is working on Ghost of Tsushima. And obviously they made Sly Cooper before, and we got 3 Sly Coopers on the PS2, and 1 on the PS4, and no Sly Coopers. Like, it's just, there's so much that we actually got on the PS3, and it's infuriating that by the time the PS4 was coming out, we'd started to drop. Like, we got multiple Killzone games. PS4, we only got 1, probably never getting them again. There's a bunch of other stuff that I'm wishing I'd wrote down, because just trying to go through all of these fucking franchises and remember which ones I've said without repeating myself is proving to be problematic. But my point is, I hate the fact that we were at an era where Sony actually had so many games it's unbelievable. If anything, too many games. And Microsoft was kind of in that boat as well, because that's why the 360 was as powerful. It was why it was as popular, because both devs had so many things coming out. And then the PS4 era hit, And Microsoft started to get this reputation of not having any games, so they started to buy studios and still don't have any games. Sony, meanwhile, still kept the reputation of having all these games when all they were doing was, yep, we're going to close this studio next, yep, we're going to cancel this next, yep, we're going to do this. And all of a sudden, now both of them are seen as having pretty much fuck all to ever come out. Microsoft are kind of finally starting to actually get the fruits of all of this, all of these devs at the board. They're finally starting to get some stuff. But Sony truly are in a dire state of actually releasing fucking anything. And it's maddening that they've got such a back catalogue of all of these absolutely fantastic franchises. And I sit there thinking, it's actually been so long since MotorStorm. Couldn't you have got Bluepoint instead of shutting them down? Even if you'd just tasked them with doing, right, do a PS5 version of the original MotorStorm trilogy. Just bring all of them back, touch up the graphics, like, touch up the frame rate, do this, that, and the other, and you don't even need to add any new content to it. Just bring all of it in, make it all the complete edition, which also would help out for game preservation, because the amount of DLC that, and downloadable games in general, that just don't exist anymore. And there's no way to even emulate them, because there was no way to back that stuff up. So, unless the DLC was actually on a disc where you were able to rip the disc and now that's available online, like, there's just no way to get so many of these old things, no way to experience them, and it's absolutely fucking annoying and maddening, because game preservation is something that, I mean, we're currently living through an era where people are going to court about don't kill games and trying to figure out a way to keep the always online stuff, because they've already realised from DLC, yeah, a lot of this stuff's already inaccessible, and now we've got games that are designed to be only played online, so they're going to be inaccessible too. Eventually, it's kind of going... I don't know how to word this, because I know fine well someone will take issue with how I word it. We'll always be able to play retro games. I truly do believe that. But there will come a time when there will be an era of gaming that is considered retro that we will not be able to play. We're already noticing with PS3 era stuff that all of that DLC is gone and there's just no way to play it. By the time PS4 stuff is retro and you're able to access it on, and I know obviously there are PS4 emulators and that, but at the moment you need an absolute monster rig to be able to run these things, on top of the legality issues of all of that stuff. I do fully get that, but being able to buy the old PS3 still and buy old discs, if that disc has all of the content on it, you can still do it. If not, then I'm pretty sure all of the PS3's like online infrastructure got completely taken down at this point, and like nothing connects anymore, because I've not been able to connect anything for a long time. So as far as I'm aware, it's all gone, which means all of that DLC, if you didn't already have it installed, then you'll just never get access to it. And yeah, it's we're getting to that era so rapidly that by the time the PS5 is retro, we might actually notice there's very few games that can genuinely be played, and you'll be able to play like the God of War games and stuff like that, I imagine. Anything that's mostly a single player game, but we don't, as much as we buy consoles for exclusives, we don't only buy consoles for exclusives, and for some people, the PS5 is the only system they've got, and there'll be games that you just won't be able to play that they grew up playing. These are massive issues that only affect video games. Movies have been so much easier to fucking historically collect. Music, anything like that. But games, DLC, content, actual versions of the games, because then you've also got to get the patches. What if someone's got a disc version of a game and it turns out that that disc version's completely unfinishable and it required the day one patch? Well, you can't play the day one patch, and all of this stuff is known. But corporations don't actually give a fuck about that. And I know this video has become a totally different topic, but I am kind of at the end of all of these like threads now, and I'm going to say I seriously wish that instead of being a guinea pig for all of these corporations, they would just outright ask people and figure things out, because trying to do guesswork here and make what they think the consumer wants and then complaining when it doesn't get bought, and like all of this leads to them just shutting studios down and cancelling things, and then we get to this point of, well, why can't we have a new one of these Wipeout games? Oh, because like you literally killed everything to do with the franchise. Like, if you make a new Wipeout now, Obviously, developers still exist, like, they'll still be alive, but all of the people that you fired will be on different teams. They'll be at different places. Some might have retired from gaming, like making video game stuff at all. Some will have passed away. There's a lot of stuff that is taken for granted, and it's not as if it's a case of just going, you know what, let's bring Wipeout back because that'll go great. Let's bring Twisted Metal back because that'll go great. No, you've got to go through the teething problems like what so many people have discovered, like with Halo. Halo is probably one of the most perfect things because Halo, it never went away. But Bungie stopped making Halo games. And 343 made Halo 4, and most everyone hated it. Then they made Halo 5, and most everyone hated it. Then they made Halo Infinite, and most everyone hated it. And, you know, once you lose this ability to create this stuff, once you get rid of all of the original artists, bringing back a franchise is so much easier said than done. And even continuing a franchise is so much easier said than done. I actually got so much shit for this when I said it, and now I think public opinion is swayed so much that I wish that I had it on video and was able to point to people and say, see, I got shit for this opinion, but I have a feeling you'll agree now. Halo really should have ended with the third game. And I know ODST and Reach came out, and I'm pretty sure they were both still Bungie, and one of them was hated at the time and is now absolutely beloved. The other one was kind of beloved all the time. But once Bungie had left, Microsoft should have just ended Halo. And everyone knows why they couldn't. Money. Like, let's be real. It's not that they actually cared about Halo, it's that they were like, hey, this is our flagship game. If we get rid of our flagship game, then people will stop wanting to come to our system for our flagship game, and we'll lose out on money and all of that. It was never anything else. It was never the... It's the one time when they should have actually done what Sony did. Because as much as I would like some of these franchises to come back and maybe give them to other teams and things like that, Sony have always been weird with a case of, right, Sucker Punch, you've made your Sly trilogy. Okay, you've actually done a fourth game. Now we'll move you on to this. We'll move you on to Infamous. Oh, you've made all of your Infamous games. Now we'll move you on to Ghost of Tsushima. And now that you've made your Tsushima games, we'll move on to something else. Naughty Dog. It was a very similar thing. It's like, oh, you've made your Uncharted games. Now we'll move you on to The Last of Us. Now we'll move you on to Intergalactic, I want to say the new thing's called. I honestly can't remember the name of it. It looks okay-ish. I mean, I like some of Naughty Dog stuff. I mean, I used to love the Crash Bandicoot stuff. But yeah, again, they made the Crash Bandicoot stuff. Then they moved on to the Jack games. I feel like Microsoft could have done that with Halo, where it's like, yep, there's 5 Halo games out there, and the dev's completely done. Let's just end Halo and move on to something else. Gears of War's still going, and it turns out Gears of War, they managed to even make a 4th and a 5th one that, again, not everyone loves them. I am a Gears of War sicko. I've read all of the books. That kind of sicko. I care about the lore. I care about the games. I think 4 is a genuinely great game. I loved 5 the first time, but I really struggled to actually replay it because of the open world nature to it, and I'm kind of worried about what they eventually do with Gears 6, but at least EDA should be more traditional Gears. But that's one of those moments where it paid off, and maybe they should have just transitioned to, you know what, Gears of War is our main franchise now, because at least those games weren't widely hated like Halo 5 was. So yeah, I know I've kind of gone all the fuck over here, and I even said that I was winding down one thread and then went off on another new thread. So before I do get sidetracked for a 14th time, it's just this kind of ramble video today, and I knew it was always going to be because I wanted to discuss so much that was going to lend into it, like another thing, that I thought I either make 6 very, very short videos or one video that actually does encompass everything, and I have managed to do that. So yeah, I wish we weren't guinea pigs. I wish they would just be open and ask and say, hey, listen, were we releasing these too fast? Is that the problem? Just, I wish there was some form of feedback, because they'd actually make more money out of this by doing the extra groundwork, and we'd be able to continue playing stuff that we really enjoy playing. Because, yeah, I hate the fact that I have a PS5 next to me, and I just never ever want to turn it on. But at the moment, all I want to play is Sony stuff. So that's all I've been doing. I've been playing PS1, I've been playing PS3, I'll eventually get to a PS2 era. That's one of the few consoles I never really got to experience much of because it was kind of stolen from me, but there's not really much on the PS4 I could think to get, and that would be the only time I'd actually want to use my PS5 to play PS4 stuff, because there's just fuck all coming out. and there's fuck all I actually care about now. It's so annoying and so bleak that so much of my childhood was Nintendo and Sony, Nintendo and Sony. And then my teens was Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft. And then it became Sony and Microsoft because I was really not enjoying a lot of Nintendo stuff. I'm going off on another tangent again, aren't I? Damn it. I really, really wasn't happy with Nintendo stuff. And I honestly thought, have I hit a point where I'm done with Nintendo? And it turns out, no, I'll never quit Nintendo. But also, please never, ever, ever do that again, Nintendo. The Wii U era, just no, please, I beg of you. I need Nintendo Magic in my life, it turns out, especially with how bleak the world is. I need Nintendo Magic, so please, just don't ever fucking go back to that era of everything is awful. Because, yeah. So, my childhood, as I say, Nintendo, and then Nintendo and Sony. My teens, Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft, and then my young adult years, essentially, just coming into adulthood, was Sony and Microsoft. And I'm getting nostalgia for that period of time when Sony and Microsoft were making so many amazing things. And I can kind of still play a lot of the Microsoft stuff, thanks to how great their backwards compatibility is. But the Sony stuff, I don't have access to anything that I actually want to without going onto the older consoles, and I'm struggling to get the DLC that I want, and it's making me wish so much that I could just fucking get a new MotorStorm right now. Right, and with that, I'm going to finally end this video and say I truly do hope you have a great rest of your day. And yeah, any thoughts at all on this, feel free to post it below. Until next time, I've been Sky Fellowship. Bye!